All right, we are here at WHX 2025 in Miami, and I have the pleasure and the honor of interviewing Rachelle Ferrara. Thank you so much for being here. Thank you for your time. Thank you for that exciting panel that you gave. Tell us a little bit about your panel and how it feels to be here at WHX Miami.
Yeah, well, first of all, I feel exhilarated to be here. This is my 7th year back to formerly FIME, now WHX Miami.
Yes.
And first of all, great job on the rebranding. It's such a great message. So I actually had the pleasure and honor of moderating Empowering Women's Health. It was really, really focused, Valentina, on how innovation and technology is pushing forward the sector of women's health. Mm-hmm. You know, as I did my research and preparing for the content and of course, close partnership with the WHX content team, I learned that 4.3 billion women are actually on this earth, which is 51% of the population.
Yeah.
And that sounds like a really big number, right? It is.
Yeah.
But only 5% of research, R&D research and funding goes to women. So if you think about it, it's a really underpenetrated space, especially the fact that it's half of the population.
More than half.
Yes, more than half, right? By 1%.
Yeah.
So it's really important as we think about care and we think about how personalized care is and disease prevention, especially when it comes to AI and we've got all these tools, we really need to focus on how we could enhance health. But again, we have to better understand the patient. So it was really an honor to also work with each of the panelists and their expertise. Great to be here.
What message do you think WHX Miami is sending by placing women's health front and center in the program this year?
Yeah, so first of all, thank you so very much for, putting that topic as part of the program. It drew on such a crowd. The message is not only inclusivity, but again, in order to take women's health serious, you have to draw some awareness to it.
Of course, you have to give it a voice.
You have to give it a voice. You have to give it a platform. But again, to really get personalized with care, it's educating people. And that's really the way we really think about WHX and this forum. It's not only a place to connect, but it's to get educated. And so that's really what we look at, is you're educating everyone here, people from all over the world, on this important sector.
From your perspective, why is it crucial to spotlight women's health in major healthcare trade shows like this one?
Yeah, so first of all, you're attracting people, innovators, policymakers, manufacturers, distributors from all over the world, okay? And they have products, they have technology, they have solutions, but they also have business practices. So it's really important to have that type of content here, because what happens is the magic doesn't only happen on the panel. I mean, I'd love to say that it does, but it happens when you have cocktails later. And people have stopped me and they've stopped everybody else on my panel and said, wow, thank you. I learned X. Or you know what, Rachelle, I want to have a conversation with you because I'm a woman and I'm trying to grow my business. So really what you're doing is you're setting the ground for people to grow their businesses. Absolutely. And that's a beautiful thing. And it's not only in the US, it's from a global scale. And if you think about scale, that's really what most of these companies here are looking to do.
Yep.
It's building businesses.
Yeah. How do you see the intersection of pioneering technology and innovative business models with shaping the future of women's health?
Yeah, that's a really great question. AI is the buzzword.
Yes.
Everywhere you go, every conference, this conference, which is great. But if you think about it, other than it being like the silver bullet, it's really the beginning of disease prevention and early detection of really, stopping horrible diseases, specific, of course, for women's health, if it's done right. So I think that the intersection is education, making sure that, we have the right content out for people to really think through what are the next steps. I also think that having the right relationships and the right messaging, you could have a product developed, but if you're not communicating and if you don't have the right relationships and talking to the actual patients to make sure it's relevant, it's not really a win. So I think the intersection is making sure that you have the right intel we're all talking together and we're collaborating, because it's going to probably look a little different within the next 5 years. Like you and I may have a little different conversation 5 years from now.
Yeah.
But that's the exciting part.
Exactly. Yeah. And at the speed with which AI is developing and moving, it's going to shake everything.
It is. And, I mean, if you think about AI right now, especially in women's health, we're probably just at the baby steps. As much as it's exciting and it's the buzz, we're a little bit more on the conversational side of AI, right? Digital front doors, chat bots, operational side of AI. But the clinical piece, that's the next step that we're really going to see, especially in women's health, over the next 5 years. So I think we should meet here again in 5 years.
Yes.
And look at the progress.
Yes. Yeah, I'm down. I'll meet you in 5 years.
Okay, good.
Absolutely.
Deal.
As a moderator, what were some of the most compelling insights or themes that emerged from the Empowering Women's Health panel?
I would really say when we highlighted the gaps. If you think about some of the obvious gaps that are taking place right now, some of those would be digital literacy or, training clinical staff or really getting physicians to adopt with technology. So those are really some big themes that everybody agreed to, making sure that rural communities have access.
Yeah.
So these are just, it sounds like the basics, but these are really the dependencies that are needed. Of course, some of the technologies were just mind-blowing that we're really looking forward to, but I really just think step one, making sure that the patients and the staff have an understanding of how to use some of these AI-empowered tools is one thing, and separately, processes. Just making sure that we have the right processes in place and the right business tools to make sure that we might move it forward. And lastly, I would say just making sure that we have buy-in. Women now have a voice.
Yes.
So we need to continue to push forward that voice to make sure that we have the ear and the eyes of the investing community. Because when the investors are there, only 2% of investments really go to women.
Wow.
So we need to really increase that to really push the movement forward.
Absolutely. How do you think that platforms like WHX Miami contribute to accelerating with gender equity in the healthcare innovations and access?
Yeah, so first of all, with access, if you think overall, I have to tell you, great job on the content. This is probably one of the best years of content. The panel right before the Women's Health panel was a whole focus on policy and access. You had Beth Kidder, who is the former ACA deputy for many years. It was such a treat to have her on board. We brought in expertise this year to really focus on access and policy and what do we need to do as a state from a Florida perspective, for example.
Yes.
And I think that even, from a global perspective, you have people from all over the world that come and learn. They could take Florida, for example, as a model and say, what are they doing? Or what is the US doing, right? So I think from a best practices, but, and I also think, whether it was the Women's Health panel or all of the other content, I just prior to coming and meeting you, there was a whole program on helping manufacturers grow their business, grow scale.
Yeah.
And there were so many great tools with that. So I would just say, WHX, the HIMSS event a couple months ago, I attended in Vegas. Those are forums, even for some of these smaller manufacturers who are very innovative. Keep in mind, innovation doesn't always come from the big companies.
Correct.
It comes from the smaller companies, but they need help through connections.
Absolutely.
To basically scale their product. And this is the place that you're going to make connections, you're going to collaborate. I have to tell you, nothing but positivity at this conference.
Yeah. Yeah, it's funny you mentioned that. On another interview, we were talking about how WHX is really good at kind of leveling the playing field and bringing together, big manufacturers, smaller companies, startups, and just creating a platform for connection and networking and opening up conversations that can benefit many different people and communities.
And what's nice about it is, again, back to your rebranding, you guys are global. So for example, even though every one of your events has a little bit of a different flavor, so Miami has a little bit of a different flair because it's Miami.
Yeah.
But if I decide to go to Dubai in September, which also is going to be an amazing event, you have some of the same people that are going to fly there. They were talking about it.
Yeah.
And so that is this community that WHX is creating. And it's beautiful. And that's really what you're doing. You're actually starting to grow on a global platform.
Yeah.
So I love it. And that's why I keep coming back. And I think a great feeling is when I was standing in one of your tech booth, so many folks that I've met over the years, I have been able to reconnect with.
Yeah.
And it's the
I love that.
relationships. It's really a community, is what I would say.
I love that. In what ways do you think that the industry can better support women's health? Not just in terms of care delivery, but also leadership, investment, and policy.
Yeah. Well, first of all, they have women that are supporting other women, right? You also have a lot of strong women that are leading the way, right? So they have you really, as a voice, but you're bringing in strong women with great backgrounds, smart women that are telling their story. But it's not just about highlighting women. It's women and men working together in partnership.
Yes.
It's gender partnership. And men want to be included in that as allies. And I've always been an advocate of that. When men and women work together and men feel included, and men have been talking about that at this conference, saying, I want to help, I want to push forward. So it's actually working together. And when men and women work together, magic happens.
Yep.
Companies are more equitable, they're more profitable, they grow, and you just get a great culture. So those are some ways that whether it's at this conference or just really setting that example out there for all these companies to do.
So, what would you say to other women in healthcare that are looking to make their voices heard and help drive change in the industry?
Oh, it's a great question. You know what? Lean in, be bold, don't be quiet. Oh, listen. Find your own board of directors is what I say. Find your people.
Yep.
I mean, I had dinner last night with a contact of mine that I've had for years. She's like a mentor. And I picked her brain and she gave me advice and we exchanged information. I mean, you're never too old to learn. It's like a lifetime learning, but go to men too, So it's create your board of directors of different types of people. But if you have an idea, speak up and it's not silly to speak up. I have to tell you, there was a young woman that it was the very front row of our Empowering Women's Health panel. She stood up and she had such a dynamic question. I was so proud of her. I had to take a picture with her and post it because it's the next generation that we need to make sure that we're pushing forward and we're elevating them.
Absolutely. And that next generation is so bold, I've noticed too.
Yes.
They don't have fear.
They
I
don't
love
have
that.
fear. But you know what? They're always watching.
Yes.
So they watch us too.
Yeah.
So we have to continuously kind of, walk the talk, right? We have to set that example and make sure that we're pushing them forward and just giving them the platform.
Absolutely. Yeah. Thank you. That's wonderful advice. And you know what? Not just for the healthcare industry, but I think for women in any industry.
Yeah, I'm really passionate about that. That's what it's all about, right?
Absolutely. Women helping women.
Women supporting women, 100%.
Thank you so much for your time. Thank you for your words. Thank you for being here. I look forward to seeing you. You promised 5 years from now.
5 years from now.
And next year.
We're going to pick you
and next year.
Okay, deal.
Thank you.